They came begging, bent in shame, trampling their faith on the path to my thorns.
You ever heard of a lady named Solvig?
Solvig the Witch? Yeah, everybody around here knows her. She can trick death.
Dad? She's right. I'm basically dead. Science tells me I'm dead. And she's telling me I don't have to be. I don't want to be dead yet.
Life is rhythm. The heart, the drum. But death knows only silence.
I want to do this. I know it sounds like a scam. I doubt it will even work. But I gotta try.
For 3 days, you and I just need to pretend.
Your curse is my gift. To woo death, one must love it, lie with it. For 3 days, give your beating, bloody heart to it, till death grows ears, till death grows warm, till an ember sparks, the dead drum thumps, and the blood of light floods in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. This is Mike, and joining me as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, necromancers. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. How the hell are you doing?
I am doing well. Saw a lot of movies in the past week. Not very many good ones, though. So maybe the one we're talking about today is like the best of a lot of not good ones, or maybe not. We'll see. We also have with us Dawn and Nelly. What's up, Dawn?
Yeah, what's going on? Always happy to be here.
All right. So, despite a few theatrical releases in the past week, the the options, none of them are really all that enticing, especially after seeing them. So, we went with a Shudder release from, I think it's been either 1 or 2 weeks that it's been on Shudder now, and that's the latest from the Addams Family, Mother of Flies. And would probably recognize them from, I still think Hellbender's probably their most well-known movie.
It's easily their best.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say probably best and most well-known. And so, yeah, let me get the synopsis for Mother of Flies. When a young woman faces a deadly diagnosis, she seeks dark magic from a witch in the woods, but every cure has costs. All right, let's see what the costs were to the cast. Venom, give us your general thoughts on Mother of Flies.
Well, Mother of Flies definitely has the Addams Family DNA all over it. It's got beautiful cinematography. It's got a great score with music from Hellbender, of course, the band, not the movie. But there's great iconography throughout. There's some creepy imagery throughout. Like, there's a lot of similarities to Hellbender, but where this one falls short for me is in its performances. I don't know if anybody else really noticed, but did the performances seem a little dry? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not even sure if dry or forced is the right word, but the performances of the father and the daughter in this movie just felt very unnatural, not nearly as organic as, say, the relationship between the mother and daughter in Hellbender, which, it's the same family. So I don't know, maybe mother and daughter work better off of each other than father and daughter. Because I don't know, like, a lot of the interactions between dad and daughter in this one just I don't know. It just didn't feel natural. Like all their conversations, their arguments, like all of it. Even their swearing, like, swearing is a very natural part of speech for most adults, but even their swearing felt out of place here. And maybe it's just me, maybe I'm grasping at straws here, but just like I said, just the performances specifically of John and Zelda just felt very dry and just not appealing to me, not nearly as appealing as, Zelda and Toby in Hellbender. Like I said, maybe they just work better off of each other than John and Zelda do. Maybe Toby and Zelda have a better connection, because even the scenes in this movie where it was just them were slightly more interesting than any of the family drama aspects of this movie. And I'm usually on board with the Addams Family. Like, Hellbender was my number 2 movie of that year. Only one was better. Uh, Even though their carnival movie was kind of not as well received as Hellbender was, I still mildly enjoyed it. Hellhole had its scenes of somewhat good horror set pieces, but it just seems like since Hellbender, the Addams Family has just kind of fallen short of what they were able to do with their first feature. At least I think it was their first feature. So yeah, despite Mother of Flies, like I said, still having great iconography, nice imagery, a good score, good cinematography, even though you can tell that this one was done completely digital. I'm not sure if Hellbender was completely digital. I haven't watched it in many years, but I would probably have to revisit it to see if it was all digital, or if it was shot on film, or maybe they're using different cameras now. I'm not sure, but for whatever it's worth, Mother of Flies just felt off to me, and I'm just not really able to put my finger on the exact reason why. The best thing I can come up with is just the acting it just didn't feel as organic. It didn't feel as believable. Like I don't know. I was dreading this general thoughts, because despite the movie having its filmmaking prowess, that all the Addams Family movies have, this one more than any other of their movies just left me so flat and almost unsatisfied with the ending. I mean, we get a distinct ending, and obviously it's up to interpretation, from the viewer, of course, which is kind of common with most Addams Family movies. They kind of leave the ending up to the viewer. They don't really serve their final culmination on a silver platter necessarily. But this one, like I said, I'm not saying that it's my least favorite Addams Family movie, not at all. I mean, I know it kind of sounds that way, but it's not. I still enjoyed the ride. I enjoyed the imagery throughout. I enjoyed the ritualistic scenes. Toby as a witch is just awesome. I absolutely love her when she's in her witchy roles. But like I said, it was just more John and Zelda in this one that just left me wanting more. It just, like I said, it just didn't come on. And these are real world father and daughter, and it didn't feel like they had father and daughter chemistry, even though they have in past movies. So, like I said, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just being overcritical. But for whatever it's worth, I enjoyed the visuals of this movie. I enjoyed the sound design and the score. I enjoyed almost all of the technical aspects of the movie. It's just the performances left me a little flat. The performances themselves feel a little flat. And if I'm wrong, please disagree with me, because I just, like I said, maybe I'm putting too much expectations on Addams Family movies. That their last couple have kind of curbed my expectations whenever they put out a new film. So it's not like I had high expectations for this one. I did enjoy the film. It is easily my second favorite Addams Family movie, but it just felt so unnatural. And maybe that was a purposeful choice from the filmmakers too. Maybe that's what they wanted. They wanted us as the viewer to feel, slightly off-putting, or, just feel like this whole thing just doesn't feel natural. There's something wrong here. And if that's the case, then they succeeded. But like I said, just I'm still I've watched the movie twice now, and it's still the performances in this one just leave me scratching my head because of how much I enjoy the performances from their previous movies. So yeah, I'm gonna say it's still a solid film. It's well worth watching. Most people will probably have a different opinion than I do on the performances and the dialogue and things like that. And I hope you do. Honestly, I mean, I hope you're not left just sitting there scratching your head for an hour and a half, wondering what happened to my Adams family. So I'll leave my general thoughts at that for now.
All right, Don, tell us what you thought about Mother of Lies.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I too am a huge fan of Hellbender. Probably like at least in my top three of that year. Absolutely loved it. Um, I'm trying to remember the carnival movie. I think it's Where the Devil Dwells, or well, whatever it is. I hated it. I thought it was absolute shit and wasn't really a fan of it at all. I did enjoy Hellhole a bit more. I do think it's a little on the weaker side, but yeah, I liked it a little bit more, but I did have some issues with it. This is, I think, their second best movie by a long shot. Yeah, I do find it to be like a sister film to Hellbender in the sense that it's pretty much just them. Like it's a small contained story that doesn't require hardly anyone else. I think their other daughter, the one that doesn't have their name in it, what's their name? The blondes. God, why am I blinking on them? Because it's John, Toby, Zelda, and then there's the second daughter. She was the one that introduced the one that was like the best friend in Hellbender. God, what's her name?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, but I can't place the name either.
Yeah, I think she appears in this in a brief section, and then there's only two or three other roles, if that. Like it's basically just the three of them, and I like that style a little bit more. I like the way that it's confined, enclosed. It's basically just them at this hovel in the middle of the woods where the witch, Toby, is just doing weird things, and it's sort of driving a wedge between John and Zelda. And I think that's kind of where Venom's coming from with the way that they're John and Zelda are off with each other, because I do think that that's intended, simply because you get the idea that as time goes on, there's something more malicious behind her spells and her treatments, and it starts to drive a wedge between the two of them, and I think it's by design. And you look at the way that it comes together at the end, where, I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything now, but the way it all comes together and the way we get the final revelation, it's definitely intended to be a little off-putting, where you kind of initially suspect that Zelda's getting, her feet under her. She's come to terms with what's going on, and she's using that as a sort of independence against her father. And her father isn't really that interested in what's going on. He's trying to, do what's right for her, but he's doing the wrong things, and it kind of puts them at loggerheads. And I think that makes, you know, I think that's kind of what Venom is getting at, where they don't feel natural with each other. And I kind of see where it's going, but at the same time, it does feel a little repetitive at moments. Again, it's one of those where, okay, how many times can you have the same argument about the two of them being at odds, with her wanting to stay out late, or whether or not the, you know, bizarre ointment that she's supposed to drink is, going to heal her or not. And I can see where maybe that would probably draw the film out a little bit more than it necessarily should. But yeah, overall, I still really enjoyed this one. Not that there's much competition for it, but it's my number one of the year by a mile. Like Mike, I've also seen a deluge of crap, so I kind of know what you're getting at there. But Yeah, this is number one for me by a mile. There's still room for improvement for sure. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it more. And I think with its themes, I think with its imagery, I think with the structure of it being this small, isolated film that just relies on, the two or three of them together to kind of tell its tale. I do like this structure and this style more from them. And I do think that this is sort of a spiritual sister of a sense to Hellbender, but it's still its own film, has nothing to do with each other, and you can enjoy them separately. But I do think that this is kind of a companion piece and a sister film in spirit. So yeah, and trying to think of anything else. It's not really a spoiler. And yeah, I'm not really coming up with much. So I guess back to you, Mike.
Okay, so I I thought this movie was okay. It's very much Adam's Family-esque. Like it now that they've kind of have somewhat of a filmography put like developing multiple movies there you can kind of see a byline of like their style, their cinematography, their characters. It's pretty much what you would expect. Now, I agree that Hellbender to me is far and away their best effort, and my main complaint about what we've got from them since is that I it doesn't seem like there's been much evolution or like building on the success of that where it's kind of like leveled out or even gone backwards in some cases. Now, I don't think this hits the highs of Hellbender, like, or even comes close, but at the same time, I do think it's probably their second best movie. It's kind of like a situation where Hellbender sits way by itself as their best, and then this one sits way by itself as their second best, and then the other two are like to me far behind it. Now I think it's been brought up by both Venom and Dawn, like the performances. I watched this like 2 weeks ago, but after I watched it, I was on one of my walks after work and I listened to an interview with them. I don't even remember what podcast it was since it's been a minute, but they did talk about how since I don't know if it was directly after Hellhole or like even before that, but at some point the oldest daughter she is like in college now, so I guess when they're doing their filming, it's like they're kind of filming around her schedule, like away from the family and outside the home. So I don't know if maybe that is contributing to, because like I agree with Venom. One, the performances in this felt a little more flat than usual, and by now we're kind of used to them as actors and actresses. It's like we kind of know, especially for a movie like this, because like you guys said, it's not like it's a sequel to Hellbender, but it feels like story-wise and the character-wise, it's almost like a spiritual successor or like an adjacent movie to a Hellbender
Mm.
type of movie. Um, and but the performance of this felt like way more flat. You would have expected after Hellbender that once they kind of went back to that kind of wheel that it wouldn't, but I don't know. So I can't say that that's the reason for it, but they did like they were pretty honest about like the challenges of making films now that the family's kind of like out separate, not and doing their own thing, and they kind of have to like get together and do things on the fly now, before or as opposed to before when they were still under one roof 24/7 and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, just
That actually makes a lot of sense because if they had extra time to rehearse because they were all living under the same roof, maybe that was beneficial for Hellbender and some of the other movies. If this movie was like a weekend project where they basically just got together, every now and again, they're not going to have as much rehearsal time. And, I understand that rehearsals aren't always key to filmmaking. That's definitely more of a stage thing. But some of the best movies do have, months of rehearsal. I mean, look at the average Mission Impossible movie. They're already planning stunts 2 years before the first roll of film even rolls. So
Yeah.
if the preparation is lacking, then that would make sense, because to Don's point about the witch putting a wedge between dad and daughter, they fell off from the very first scene. Literally from the very first scene to the very last scene, Zelda and John just don't feel like they're clicking. And if Zelda, especially if Zelda is college age, I mean, she's grown, she's gone from a, teenager to a young adult in the last, 5, 6 years. That's going to change, your attitudes, your, maybe even changes your acting style a little bit. So, yeah, thank you for that, Mike. That explains a little bit more about the dryness of the performances here.
Yeah, I just that's one thing I remembered from kind of like after I saw it that I just wanted to bring up just in case. I really going into this, I didn't really know what anyone's thoughts on the movie were, but I figured I'd share that. Now as far as the story, I mean, I generally like the story, how it unfolded, what they went through. Of course, with kind of like the DIY method and Adams, they tend to make smaller budget, or you could say severely limited budget movies. It's going to have those restrictions on it, but I find that they're pretty good at maximizing the resources they do have. So um, they usually come up with like pretty decent ideas for their stories, and I thought it was good. I don't know if the ending on this one stuck with me like it did say like a Hellbender. So I think that's like makes this one less good to me. Um Overall, yeah, I thought it was a decent movie. I don't have a ton to say about it in general thoughts, but yeah, I mean, I'll just leave it at that. It's probably their second best movie, but I mean, it's far behind Hellbender for like their best. So I'll kick it back to you, Venom.
For whatever it's worth, and this just popped into my head literally right now. Maybe it's the fact that the protagonist and antagonist are flipped in this movie from Hellbender, that it kind of maybe changes, because with the mom, or should I say with Toby being the antagonist in this movie, her performance is very different. It's very brooding. She talks slower, she walks slower, she does everything, very monotonous. Whereas with Hellbender, it was, the opposite. Toby was actually the protagonist of Hellbender, trying to make sure that her daughter didn't go out of control, blah blah blah. And then Zelda herself kind of turns into the antagonist in Hellbender by the time we get to the end of the movie. Sorry for the spoilers. But in this one, I think the fact that Toby is the villain from beginning to end, I think that could have something to do with it. I think I just like Zelda more as the antagonist and Toby as the protagonist. And obviously, they've only done two witchcraft movies that I know about anyway. So, there's not a whole lot, like Mike said, there's not a whole lot to compare to. But we'll see as they put out more movies if Toby continues to want to be the antagonist in the films, and see if those kind of performances become the norm with them, or if they go back to what worked in Hellbender and having Toby be the more sympathetic character, and the younger person being more antagonistic. I don't know, but I'm grasping at straws. Like I said, I'm trying to figure out what about the performances of this movie just didn't work out for me. But like I said, with Mike's explanation about that interview, makes total sense. If they're not living together, they're not getting each other's vibe constantly, they're not rehearsing as much as they used to, then it's really more like a table read. It's basically they get the script and they read the lines. That's kind of what this movie felt. Actually, yeah, now that I just said that, that's what this movie kind of felt to me. It felt like a table read. For those who aren't as into Hollywood history as I am, a table read is usually something done more with television, where when the cast gets the new script, they'll get together just in a room at like a conference table, and they'll read their lines. They won't necessarily be acting out everything, but it's kind of just working on timing and things like that. And that's what this movie felt to me. It felt like a table read. It felt like this was rehearsal and the real movie still needs to be shot. I don't know. Like I said, it sounds like I'm talking shit about the movie, and I'm genuinely not trying to, because overall I did enjoy the movie. I genuinely did. But I think, like I said, with that idea popping into my head about Toby being the antagonist, like I said, maybe that's why I think I like her more as the sympathetic mom character as opposed to the evil witch. But, we'll see with future movies if they continue going with the, the witchcraft thing, or if they even continue doing genre stuff. It seems like that's what they're going for. I'd like to see them do something more truly folk horror. Like they delve into folk horror, like they dip their toe into it, both with Hellbender and this one, and even a little bit with Hellhole. I would like to see them dive headlong into folk horror. And I guess technically Where the Devil Roams is kind of their attempt at it, but I don't want to see something a little bit different, something a little bit more isolated, a more isolated story like a Hellbender. But who knows? Maybe I'm just pining for 2021. Who knows? But yeah, not really much else I've got to say about it. Like I said, I've praised the filmmaking as much as I can. Great sound design, great score. It's really, I mean, literally the only thing keeping this from being like a top 10 candidate is the performances of the film. And obviously some people don't put as much weight on performances as other viewers. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But especially when I enjoy this family, I enjoy the camaraderie that they have in their films. And I just didn't feel it in this one. Even if you've got antagonist protagonist situation happening, there should be a good back and forth, and there always has been. And with this one, I don't know, it felt like the witch was very short. Every time the dad asked a question, she was just very short with them for no real reason, other than maybe being upset that he was even there, because there was kind of a conversation at the beginning whether the witch even knew that Mickey or Zelda was bringing her father along with her. So, maybe that just upset the witch. What was her name? Slavig, I think, or Solvig. Solvig was the witch's name. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I've watched it twice. I literally just finished watching it like for the second time, like 15 minutes ago. Because I really wanted to lock down my thoughts on these performances, and I'm glad I'm not the only one who brought it up, because I like I said, I would have felt like maybe I was nitpicking a little bit if I was the only one who noticed it. So thank you, Mike. But like I said, that's all I really have. If there's anything else you guys want to discuss before we get into spoiler talk.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
All right. Well, this movie has a very simple story. It's a convoluted way to go through a very simple story, but the story basically is, and there is a little bit of a mystery in the first act of the film, where we're wondering why father and daughter are seeking out this witch. Like dad very obviously doesn't really buy into what he thinks or what his daughter thinks is about to happen. And there's just this big mystery as to why they're doing this. Why are they going to see this woman who very obviously is, kind of off the grid and blah, blah, blah. At around the end of the first act, we find out that Zelda actually has a terminal condition. She has a tumor in her stomach. I think she said it was the size of an apple. So obviously she's terminal. She's already done the chemo and the radiation thing. So now she's looking to black magic, because where else do you go after you've lost hope with science? Magic or religion. But, religion, not a whole lot of comfort there, at least for physical pain anyway. But yeah, we find out that she has a tumor and that this witch is basically going to help her. Now, how did the witch and Mickey meet? We find out that they met through a dream, that literally somehow in a dream, Zelda or Mickey was calling out, and basically the witch heard her and then whispered back, and Zelda then heard her. And that kind of started the actual communication. I don't know if they actually say who contacted who first in the real world, but their first interaction apparently was through a dream. Now, obviously, the second act is filled with a lot of repetitive, like ritualistic stuff, like the witch very obviously doesn't like the dad. She actually gives him a tonic that just completely fucks him up. He ends up puking up blood. But does he leave? Does he put his foot down and say, okay, that's it, I'm done with this? No. This is what I mean. Like, there's a lot of elements about this performance that just kind of bothers me. The fact that dad even left Zelda alone with her, even when she said leave, it's like, dude, your daughter has terminal cancer. This could be literally the last time you set eyes on her, and you're literally going to go leave and get a cheeseburger or get a room. Like, at one point he actually tried to get a room. Luckily, the girl at the motel knew the legend. Like, she was local, and she knew the legend of Solvig. And then that's when we get the reveal that Solvig is not alive. Solvig died 200 years ago. And we get the flashback that, you know, she was a necromancer. Somebody basically back 200 years ago, someone's baby in the local village had died. They buried it. Then the witch Solvig dug up the baby and brought it back to life. So basically, she had herself a little zombie baby. Once the local villagers caught wind of that, they basically burned the baby alive. They just literally took the baby from her, threw it into a fire, and then rather than killing Solvig, they basically started to stone her. They started just throwing rocks on her. Eventually, they just started to pile up, and then they just kept going. So to the point that she was buried, maybe not buried alive necessarily, but buried under this pile of rocks, which looks suspiciously like a cairn. If anybody remembers, like, Irish mythology, what was that movie that we did? The vampire movie from Ireland, Boys of something County.
Boys from County Hell.
Thank you. Yes, in that movie they talk about the cairn, which is a pile of rocks over something that's been buried, and that's what I thought of instantly when I saw that pile of rocks in front of her house. Anyway, as it turns out, there actually is no house. Like, the house is an illusion that the witch performed to trick the dad and Zelda. Like I said, Zelda and her father get into an argument. Dad leaves. Then he gets the story from the motel worker, runs back, and while he's gone, this is when Solvig does her final ritual, if you will. And it's actually pretty gnarly, because what she actually does is she literally pokes a hole into Zelda's stomach, literally reaches into her stomach and pulls the tumor out. Then she starts massaging the tumor almost like it's a ball of clay. And then eventually the tumor turns into a little baby. It turns into a fetus. Again, it'll take a smarter man than me to explain the symbolism of all of this, but, you know, I'm just relaying what I saw. And then after we see that the fetus is moving, that it's actually alive, she starts almost like kneading it more. Like, you know, she continues like kneading it like a ball of clay. And then suddenly it's like a year-old baby. It's like, you know, it literally has grown like 6 months to a year instantly. And at this point, obviously, Zelda is cut wide open because someone literally just reached into her stomach and pulled out a tumor. So she's screaming in pain, blah, 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 not really understanding what's happening, because don't forget, Zelda doesn't get the backstory. The dad gets the backstory. So Zelda probably doesn't even know what the fuck is going on. And basically what ends up happening is Solvig the witch just walks away with her new baby. It's almost like she's been reunited with her zombie baby. And when dad finally does arrive, we as the audience think that Zelda's dead because she had, you know, she dropped her head and stopped breathing. But then she comes to. As soon as dad shows up, she comes to, and she starts crying, yelling that, you know, and she's covered in blood. And she's saying, she took it from me. She took it, you know, she took, you know, whatever. But then when she rubs her belly, she wipes all the blood off and realizes there's no wound. There's no wound at all. And basically, we get a final scene, like an epitaph scene of the film, where we see Zelda and her father at the doctor's office. The doctor basically saying, we don't know what happened. She literally has no signs of any cancer. She has no signs of chemo damage. She has no signs of radiation damage, even though she should have all of these. She's literally in perfect health. And the Zelda and John just kind of both accept what happened and they go along their merry way, and that's the end of the film. So did the witch actually help Zelda, or did the witch need did she need a tumor of some kind to be able to resurrect her baby? Which, oh, I did skip a part. I forgot. I'm sorry. After Zelda and John are reunited, and she's, the tumor's been taken out of her. John and Zelda go back to the rock pile where Zelda is supposedly, or excuse me, where Solvig is supposedly buried under that pile of rocks. They dig up all the rocks, they pull all the rocks out, and they find the decomposing bodies of a woman and a baby, but the woman is clutching the baby. When we originally see her get executed, they burn the baby in a pit, and then they throw her in that same pit and stone her to death. So it's not like she's embracing the child. So is that body that they dug up, is that the body of Solveig now content because she was reunited with her baby, so now she's not going to be haunting the woods anymore? Or is this something that she just does periodically to cancer patients? Maybe once a year she drags a cancer patient out to the woods so she can steal I mean, like I said, there's a lot of interpretation with this movie, which is fine. I mean, that's very common for Addams Family movies. This one, though, it leaves it a little too ambiguous, almost. Like, I'm not ultra happy with the ending. I'm happy with I'm happy that Zelda's character Mickey is now cancer free. She even looks healthy. The dark circles that are around her eyes all through the film are gone. Blah blah blah. And that's our story. Sorry, I didn't mean to actually go through a full-on walkthrough, but I thought it would go by quicker than that. But I mean,
it was pretty quick. I mean,
yeah, I just I try to think about the positives and the negatives in the movie, and the only negative I can come up with is really just the performances, like I said. So maybe the key is that they need to take time off whenever they're going to make a movie so that they can actually stay together. Like just do movies during summer break or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how my general thoughts will be perceived from people listening, but like my thing is like I don't really have a lot of issues with the movie. It's just kind of like an okay movie. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's one of those movies where like there's nothing wrong with it necessarily or bad. It's just that you also just don't think it's great either. It's like, okay, it was an Addams Family movie. I mean,
Exactly.
it's just kind of like they make a specific type of movie, and sometimes they're a little better than others. And this one, like I think we all said it's like their second best.
Yeah. I think witchcraft is definitely their wheelhouse. I'm not saying that they should only do witchcraft movies, of course not, but it seems to be where their strengths lie. I'm not sure if maybe Toby and Zelda actually have studied like Wicca or anything in real life. Maybe do they actually know any like history of witchcraft, things like that? But it just seems like their witchcraft stuff is more enjoyable
Yeah,
overall. So,
it seems like they're very comfortable coming up with lore based on, you know, some
mhm.
level of knowledge, whether just being hobbyists of it or what, you know, whatever about beyond that. It just seems like they are
Mhm.
crafty with stories out of that lore. So like I would imagine that in the future, even if it's not directly the next thing they make, I would imagine we'll see them return to folklore or witchy stuff in the future plenty.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I talked earlier about some of the imagery in the movie. There really is some great imagery in this movie. I mean, there's a great shot of Solveig like spitting out flies, like literally she's standing in the middle of the woods and just a big flow of flies just starts coming out of her mouth. There's a great duel scene with a snake where we see a snake actually crawl into Solveig's mouth, and then a few minutes later, she transfers the snake into Zelda's mouth. It's literally a full grown snake, which, you know, I'm sure there's more under the surface there than we're going to talk about here. But yeah, just again, some beautiful imagery. I love that shot, that quick shot of the dad with all the maggots in his mouth and his eyes like whited over. Very obviously, Solvig did not like the dad in this movie. Obviously, probably because he was a skeptic, but just man, she definitely had fun with the dad throughout this movie. Also, I did like the narration in this movie. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of narration in my movies, but in this movie, it worked for me because basically Toby does all the narration, and she's very smooth, almost comforting with the tones of her voice. You know, it's almost soothing to hear her narrate, and then to see it's like the complete opposite, to see the evil things that she's doing. But then she has this soft, soothing voice that works for narration for me. So, like I said, even though I'm not the biggest fan of narration, I do think this movie did it pretty well. We get a great C-section in this movie. That first C-section, holy shit, that came out of nowhere. Like I know that was done. That C-section was from 200 years ago, so it's obviously going to be incredibly brutal. But yeah, they did not pull any punches with that. Like we see the incision, we see them pull the skin back, we see them pull the fucking fetus out of the mother. Just that was a brutal C-section, definitely. Um, Again, you know, we've talked about the cool imagery. There's one shot in this movie that I'm not sure what the explanation of it is, but I liked it. Um, the scene where we see Solvig in the past, 200 years ago, digging up the baby, digging up the dead baby that got buried. Did you notice that she was drooling? Did you guys notice that? Like, I thought that was like, I thought obviously, you know, you see drool and you think, oh shit, she's going to eat that baby. But no, she didn't eat that baby at all. So I'm not sure where the hell the drooling was coming from. Like, it was very Sinners, you know, like with the vampires and sinners who are about to feed, they start to drool. I found that interesting. Um, the what was up with that imagery of Solveig being like naked and covered in blood, and it looked like she was fucking a corpse. Did you guys notice that? Like,
Yeah.
I don't like. Yeah, this is what I mean about some of the imagery in Addams Family movies. Like, it's so over the top that it looks cool, but good luck explaining it. I don't know. Um, I did like, you know, I did like the decomposing bodies that we saw throughout the film, whether they were actually there or just, you know, in the mind of Solveig, whatever the case may be. I thought that was pretty well done. And then, yeah, holy shit, turning that tumor into a baby. Like, I'm still not sure if Solveig is a good witch or a bad witch, because ultimately she did do for Zelda what Zelda wanted. Zelda is now cancer free and she's 100% healthy. So, yes, Zelda had to go through absolute fucking hell, but she got what she wanted. So, that's what I mean. Like, this movie leaves me scratching my head because I just don't know how to feel about any of the characters in the movie, you know? Like, even Zelda leaves me a little like how short she was with her father, you know, especially with mom not around. Like, we can only assume that mom is probably dead. So if dad and daughter, if all they have is each other, man, they flew off the handle really easy in this one. And again, you know, with the cancer, you know, with a disease, that it changes attitudes, it changes, the relationships. I understand all of that, but this is part of why I'm saying that the performance overall in this movie, all of the performances just felt not up to par with what we usually get. But hey, folks, if performances don't matter to you, then you might like this one just as much as Hellbender. So I would still recommend it. I mean, it's on Shudder. So, if you have access to a Shudder subscription, then you can get a good movie to watch for free. But otherwise, it I it's not something that I'll seek out to watch in the future. Hellbender will definitely be my go-to Addams Family movie. I actually think I enjoyed Where the Devil Roams a little bit more than either of my co-hosts. Not to say that I flat out love the movie, that's because that's not true, but I did enjoy elements of it. It's technically it's their goriest movie as far as like the on-screen kills, because their movies aren't generally too gory. So for whatever that's worth. But yeah,
One thing I
I don't
wanted to
know.
mention is I did get a kick out of the dirt beds for accommodations when they got
Yeah,
killed.
the dirt beds. They were basically sleeping on tree stumps that were shaped like beds. It was really weird. That should have been a giveaway that that house didn't actually exist. The way that the trees kind of grew into beds inside the house, yeah, like that should have been an early clue. But I try not to figure out my movies too early. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I try to go on the journey that the director wants me to go on. So I don't try to figure stuff out too early. I don't overthink it. But maybe this is a movie that should be overthought because I'm still scratching my head about the thing. Damn good movie. It's still a solid movie. It's just, when we know what they can do, it leaves us wanting more. So, I'm still looking forward to the next one. Hopefully, they'll have more rehearsal time this time or next time. So the performances feel a little bit more organic. But otherwise, no major complaints. Like I said, just my little nitpick about the performances. Otherwise, still a solid movie. It still gets a recommend from me. And that's it for me.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I think it's already been mentioned. It is on Shudder. It's been available for I think a couple weeks now. So if you haven't checked it out, find it there. And I don't know if all their other ones are still on Shudder. They could be
The last
scattered.
four, like they did. I was looking at their IMDb. It looks like they did do some indie features before Hellbender, but nothing that was, popular. Like Hellbender in 2021 is probably the first thing of name that they did, and the Hellbender shorts, because there are multiple Hellbender shorts that led up to the release of the feature film too. So
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I guess with that, anything else you guys got new for people to listen to?
well, I can finally announce that yes, episode 46 of Creature Comforts is officially available as of a couple of days ago. Finally got the network head to get that up there a little bit later than I wanted, unfortunately. So I think we got it up there like on February 2nd or 3rd. It is still technically our January episode, but yeah, it is a little late. Sorry about that. We're in the process of deciding what the next movie will be for the next episode, for episode 47. Look out for that one later this month. And that's pretty much it for me. No, again, the main show got postponed. Well, not postponed. I mean, we kind of assumed we weren't going to be recording on Super Bowl Sunday, but, we got the
Yeah.
confirmation the night before. So,
Yeah, I think last week when we had to postpone, I didn't even think my mind that it was going to be Super Bowl Sunday. And then once we got to like Thursday or Friday, I was like, oh, yeah, duh, we're definitely not doing it on this day. So I think as of now, everyone's good for the upcoming weekend. So,
mhm.
and I guess the only the good byproduct, which I don't even know if it's going to be considered good once we actually talk about it, is we do now, well, at least me, for what I've seen in the theater, I have like a few actual 2026 releases to talk about for what we're watching. Because usually,
Oh, yeah,
especially
same
this
here.
time, yeah, especially this time of the year, there's not as many. So like I get to that part of the show and I'm like, I can talk about other stuff I've watched, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna be catching up with my thoughts on other
Yeah.
2026 theatrical releases. So good.
Yeah, I actually can't wait to talk about Dracula. I know that we kind of passed on Dracula for this show since the new Dracula doesn't really lean into horror, but I still really enjoyed that movie. Not the best Dracula adaptation ever by any stretch, but a very romantic one, a very romanticized one, if you will. But good performances, beautiful set pieces, great cinematography. Just, yeah, I can't wait to talk about it a little bit more in depth. So look out
Yeah,
for that on the next main show.
I'll probably see it before the main show. So
Yeah, check it out. Like I said, it's not going to blow your mind. It's one of those things. As I'm driving home from the movie, I'm thinking to myself, well, that was really good, but was it necessary? Like I'm sitting there thinking, did it add anything to the lore? Did it change anything? And I'm just sitting there like, well, I guess we just need a big cinematic Dracula movie every 20 or 30 years. So
yeah.
I guess that's the new one.
All right, Dawn, anything else you got?
Hopefully, by the time you hear this, we should be available, getting together for one of my shows. This was one that was put off. It's not the one that got canceled by the tragedy. It was one that just got pushed off by timing. Hopefully, I will be joining Paranormal is the New Normal. I've been with them a few times now, and we should be getting together to do another big roundtable. We are going to be looking at sexy horror movies. So that should be a very fun time. I've got the lotion ready. I just stocked up on tissues for this weekend. So yeah, that should be a really fun time, and I'm looking forward to it. FYI, this was one that has been scheduled since what is it, July? I think we were scheduled to do this either July or August of last year, and we're just now getting to it. So
Wow.
yeah, that's how long it's been. I think most of us just had raging hard boners and just couldn't get through the film. So but yeah, hopefully by the time you hear this, we should be getting together for that, and should have that one available. Other than that, yeah, the creature comforts. Looking forward to whatever the newest show is. I'm currently still making my decision, but you'll know about that one sooner rather than later.
Okay. I got nothing as of now. I've been talking about stuff, but nothing booked solidly yet. And as far as we go, the one thing I know for sure comes out next week is a movie called Cold Storage.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I
I've heard
think,
good things.
yeah, because the week after that is the new Scream, but next week is Cold Storage. And there's another one I want to see but I don't think it's horror. It looks like more like kind of like a thriller with Sam Rockwell. That Good Luck.
Oh yeah, that looks
Don't
fun.
die. Yeah, it looks fun, just not for this show probably. Um, yeah, so I guess that's gonna wrap it up for this episode of Fresh Cuts. Thanks everyone for listening. We shall now say bye to the listeners.
Later.
Never fuck with a necromancer.
Stay out of the woods.